Yamaha FG830. It's a lovely sounding guitar, lots of volume. All I have to do is this. If you look at the action, can you see the action there with my new camera set up? Too high here and too high up there. So my first step would be to lower the bridge, because where's my fingers? The bridge is too high, as you can see. Bring it down a bit, not an awful lot. I think the bridge is also crooked. I don't know whether you can see it. It's leaning forward a little bit, so I'm going to bring that down and jam it in a bit harder. And then once I've lowered the bridge a bit, then I'll start on the nut. Now there's a very technical formula, mathematics about how to do this, but I ain't going to use any of it. I'm just going to use my judgment and bring it down a bit and play with it. Not bring the bridge down too far, but a bit. And bring the bridge down first and then bring the nut down. I don't have anything else to do to this guitar because I believe I set it up a long time ago with a new nut and a new bridge. I can't remember, but I told them to bring it back to me once it is settled in, and then I bring it down in action. So that's what one is going to do now. I'm going to put a new set of strings on it as well. Okay, pause. The first thing I'm going to, if you don't have a nosy cat, it helps, but the first thing I'm going to do is take away a bit of the saddle. But the way to do that I've done is I press on the first string and I look at the distance on the 12th fret. I don't know if you can see that. And I'll take away, oh, she's a pain. I'll take away about half the distance. So I'm guessing at it. I'm not going to take any calipers or anything like that there. I'm just going to use experience and guess at it. I would say that we're talking about 3 mil off the bridge. So I'll do that, and clever people will notice, eagle-eyed people will notice I've kept the first 2 strings on. That'll help me when I go to reduce the nut down and the bridge. Alright, so pause while I get the bridge out and let you see what I was talking about in the bridge. You see the bridge is... Now I knew that when I gave it back to the chappie, but I wanted everything to settle down. So what I'll do now is I'll make that bridge fit a lot tighter. Maybe even use a little shim at the front of it, tiny shim. But now I'm going to take that out and I'm going to show you how I'm going to reduce that down. And it's a square body. Let me just check that, double check. It's a flat body, I should say. Yeah, well there's a tiny little bit of a, at that end and the far end, there's a tiny little of a bulge there and there, but this part's flat. So the bridge will be flat on the bottom too. So I'll get my machine out and let you see how I do that. I'll just use a steel rule to take away what I consider to be 3 mil and put on, that's actually about 2 mil. But if I take away the line as well, that'll give me 3 mil. But I'm not going to be fussy about getting it right down to 3 mil. I'll probably put it on and take it off and put it on, take it off. And I don't know whether you've seen one of these before. Some of you may have. But it's a thing you set down flat and you put your saddle in it and then you run it on sandpaper, and it you can set it at an angle, you can set it at a fraction of an angle. It's quite good. This is a cheap one, but I'm quite impressed with it because you put the saddle in there. Let me just see, loosen that off a little bit. Loosen that off a little bit. It's got springs in there pushing it against me, so right, so there you go. You notice I've got the saddle at the sides of those. So you loosen that off and loosen that off, and you push the saddle in further until you get the right angle. So off, 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 off a bit more. Let me just make sure. Yeah, that's about right. Can you see in there that I've got it on the line where I drew? And then I tighten up these and the saddle doesn't move anymore. Not too tight, you don't have to go crazy. just enough to hold it in position. Obviously you check it, make sure it's right. So the next thing you do, I put a flat bit of wood there. I'll come back to you when I get the next bit. Now, a little bit of sandpaper. I'm using 120 and it's on a bit of wood, and that's ready. And all I do now is, you can double side that, it's double side sticky tape to that, but all I do is run it up and down, and you'll see the wheels are not touching at the moment, but they will eventually when we get down to size, and it'll stop it from going any further. I think you can see the wheels rolling on the sandpaper now, on both ends. Right, okay, I think that's enough. I could go down till it's completely stopped, but you can see that it's taken its way right to where it wanted. And when I loosen this...
Jim Lennon. I have twice tried to send you emails today. One from computer and one from phone, and they won't send.
And my brother having trouble with his emails. Okay. And you can see, if you look closely, where the pencil line was, it's barely there. So that's taken it away quite nicely. So I'll just tidy up now and see if I can sort out my brother's emails. Yeah. There you go, that's the shimmied down one, and shimmied down. Don't think mine shimmy down, but reduced down in size. It's not so gross now. Now I'll figure out a way to stop the movement from front to back. Still is there. I think a little shim at the front, which I'll find now. Now I'll just put a little mark on this with a pencil. Yep, and that gives me the depth of the shim. Now I won't go the whole way with the depth of the shim because I don't want it to be seen, but that gives me an idea for the shim. Now the way I make a shim, carry out, Chinese carry out, for that size of shim, a Chinese carry out's perfect. Now I've used these tin cans before because they resonate the sound, as you can hear, whenever you're cutting it, and whenever you're taking a little shiver. Let me just bring up my piece of wood again. I can then slice it. I lost my good Stanley knife, so I must fix that and find out why I've lost my good Stanley knife. Again, this doesn't have to be, you know, precise to the nth degree. And that measurement I made gives me an idea of what I need. And I'm going to cut it too big. Right, I'm going to make a mess of cutting it too big as well. So, and I'll keep that tin foil for later. And I haven't measured this to see if it will fit, so hopefully it will do. But I got a feeling it will, because it has to be a snug fit. So let's bring it back again and check this against the size of it. Yeah, it's just about right. Now I'm going to flatten it out a bit because I squished it. That's it now. No movement. Right, okay. Fiddly bloody thing, but it's good because it's there. And it's nice and angled right in. Fiddly, but there you go. Now before that's it back in again. Now before I do the nut, I'll just check the neck straightness. And you couldn't get it any straighter. I do prefer a little bow, but I'm going to let it sit. It's very straight. And now I'm going to bring the nut down a fraction. The height of the string from there has come down to where just about where I like it. And if I press the first fret, you'll see, if you can see. Can I bring you down to see? You can see it's not so bad now. If I press the first fret down, that would be acceptable to the 12th fret. Didn't go too far, which is the thing I didn't want to do. Right, just bring that over. Right, okay. Now pause, and I'll get the nut. I'm going to record it on my iPhone at the same time as recording it from above. I've got my nut frets here. We've got 16, 42, 26, 50 and 36, 55. So I'm going to just use judgment. You could use feeler gauges and stuff like that, but I'm going to just use judgment and bring it down with the nut fret to where I feel it's right. If anybody wants to buy me a set of proper nut files, I'd be very happy to accept them. They're only about £150 for the proper ones. These ones are about £45, but they're okay. They're not great, but they're okay. Right, okay. So let's just see what that does for the E string. It still has to come down more because that's a brand new bone nut. It still has to come down more. Okay, so 16, right, okay. You see, I'm not using the gauge anymore because this is all going to be guesswork. I suppose if you weren't experienced at this, it'd be guesswork. But if you're experienced at it, it's called judgment. Now, I like that action there. I like that action, right. I'm not going to do that with everyone, just every. Yes, that's as far as I want to go down. And when I finished, I'm going to round off this. And I've just got one more little thing to do before I stop here recording. Let me just take that away. I'm going to put a bit of an angle on it now because I was doing it that way before. Now I'm going to go down without touching the head and scratching it. Just going to put a little bit of an angle on it so that the intonation point is closer to the back than all across the whole thing. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. Not on guitars that maybe if you're a professional guitarist and you wanted to do that, yes. Right, okay, so I'm going to stop that. That's what you did. And I'm going to come back to you when I've all done it all. All right? Now, as you'll see, I had to give up because I couldn't get enough light on my guitars with the lighting I have. So we're going to have to put up with this sort of reflections, I'm sorry to say, until I can find a better way to till I can afford better lighting. What was happening is I couldn't see, even though you had a nice lighting effect, I couldn't see because I needed the light to see what I was doing, but it was just too dull for my eyesight. So we're going to have to suffer until I can afford better lighting. I just spent 10,500 yen on a set of blades, so it's going to be a while before I can afford better lighting. Get this in tune. I'm going to have to tune it all over again, because when you tune it flat, when you tune it flat, it is flat. So if you turn on its side, you probably might see. Oh, that's okay. Make a liar out of me. And maybe it's only electric guitars that do that. Maybe it's not acoustics. Or this is a good acoustic. I like this one, the Yamaha one. So that is it. And it should be in tune. Sounds nice. Nice action there. Let me just see if I can show you. Nice action at the head. I think I could bring it down maybe another millimeter on the bridge, but I'm really loath to do that, because the person brought me this originally, I think, because it was a buzz, and I sort of at the buzz. But if you bring it down too low, you might get lots of buzz. I suspect that he'll be playing down to the money shots anyway, and maybe even there, and it's still very good action, even though it's could maybe come down another fraction, but with a risk involved. Okay, so that's how you bring down a nut, and how you bring down a saddle, or a bridge, or a nut, or whatever they say. Alright, goodbye.